Welcome everyone to Machiavelli's Interrogation Room. In this series, we explore answers to questions many of us have about the art of manipulation. I was lucky and had the opportunity to speak with a master manipulator, record our conversations, and now I'm excited to share his insights with you. For privacy, I'll refer to him as John unless you prefer otherwise.
No, John is fine.
Before we dive in, if you found these insights intriguing, I encourage you to watch the full video for even more in-depth discussions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more interesting conversations your way. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.
That sounds intriguing even for me.
Well then, welcome John, and thank you for agreeing to discuss your methods and experiences with me.
No problem. This is actually my first time doing an interview like this, so I'm a bit excited.
Let's get started then. Question number 1. How do you gauge the right moment to use silence effectively without making the other person suspicious or defensive?
Honestly, it's about paying attention to the little signs. You ask a question and then just pause, watch how they react. Do they start shifting in their seat, avoiding eye contact, or getting a little twitchy? That's usually your clue that they're uncomfortable with the silence and feeling the pressure to say something. That's when you just sit back and let them fill the awkward gap. Usually, they start talking more than they intended, revealing things they didn't mean to. It's kind of like poking a bear gently. You don't want to scare it away, just enough to get a reaction.
Very interesting. But let's move on to the question number 2. Can you share a specific experience where using silence led someone to reveal a critical secret or concession unexpectedly?
I remember this one time during a job interview. I answered the initial questions confidently and then deliberately paused longer than usual after my response. The interviewer's eyes flickered, and I noticed them hesitating, their posture stiffening slightly. I kept quiet, maintaining eye contact but saying nothing. After a moment, they started to relax a little, and unexpectedly, they began sharing more about the challenges they faced in their department. Things they hadn't mentioned before. That quiet moment nudged them to fill the space, and before they realized it, they'd opened up about issues they usually wouldn't discuss so openly. It's surprising how much people will reveal just to escape that awkward silence.
Right. Now, next question. How do you balance the ethical line between using silence as a tool for influence and manipulating people unfairly?
That's a good one. I think it all comes down to what you're trying to do. Silence itself isn't good or bad, it's how you use it. If you're genuinely trying to understand someone or help them see things from their own perspective, that's fine. But if you're just using it to trap someone or push them into a corner, that's where it gets sketchy. I try to keep it honest, use silence to encourage honesty, not to manipulate or control. It's about being aware of your motives and making sure you're playing fair. When you're respectful about it, silence can be a pretty powerful tool without feeling wrong.
Right. I'd like to circle back to question 2, but from a different angle. What about in your private life? Have you ever used silence to get some secrets in a romantic relationship or friendship?
Oh, absolutely. In close relationships, silence can be even more effective because people tend to get comfortable and let their guard down. Sometimes I'll ask a question and then just step back, say nothing, and let the silence do its magic. It's funny how often someone will start revealing things they didn't even realize they were holding back. Little frustrations, doubts, or secrets they weren't ready to admit. It's not about playing games, really. It's more about creating a safe space where they feel safe enough to open up without feeling pushed. Sometimes silence in those moments is like a gentle nudge. They start talking because they're uncomfortable with the quiet, not because I'm forcing them. It's a subtle art, but honestly, it works just as well in personal relationships as it does in negotiations or sales.
That's really interesting. It also connects to how people naturally think. How do you take advantage of the fact that most folks care more about what everyone else thinks than what they remember themselves, to influence their beliefs or actions?
Oh, that's a fun one. People have this built-in need to belong and be accepted, right? So, if you can get them to believe that everyone else thinks a certain way, they're more likely to go along. Even if it's not what they really think. It's like planting a seed in their mind that this is what everyone's doing or believing, and suddenly they start to follow the herd without even realizing they're doing it. It's pretty effective because most folks don't want to stand out or be the odd one out. Once enough people buy into a certain idea, it becomes this social truth that's hard to shake. So, I leverage that by subtly reinforcing the consensus, highlighting what others are supposedly thinking or feeling, making it easier for them to just go along with the flow.
That naturally brings up another trick. How do you make a false story stick so well that everyone just starts believing it's the truth?
Yay, that's where repetition and social proof come into play. If you can get a story or idea out there repeatedly, and especially if influential people or respected figures seem to endorse it, it starts to feel real. People tend to believe what they hear often enough, especially if it's coming from sources they trust or see as part of their social circle. Over time, the false narrative becomes this accepted truth, almost like a shared secret everyone's whispering about. It's a bit like casting a spell. Repetition, authority, and social validation turn it into reality, even if it's totally fabricated.
But obviously, messing with how people see the truth can bring up some tricky ethical stuff. How do you handle the moral side of things when you're shaping what people remember or believe? Especially since it might make them start doubting their own memories or trust in themselves.
That's the tricky part, isn't it? I mean, when you're working on shaping perceptions, you have to be aware of the line you're crossing. I see it as a game of balance. On one hand, you want to influence and guide people, make them see things your way. On the other, if you go too far or manipulate too blatantly, you risk losing their trust altogether. So, I think about it like a poker game. You want to bluff convincingly, but not so much that everyone becomes suspicious. It's about creating a shared narrative that feels believable and consistent, so they don't start questioning their own memories or judgments. That way, you maintain control without breaking the trust entirely, at least, not until you're ready to walk away.
That's a unique approach. Now, shifting a bit, how about in personal relationships? In romantic relationships or friendships? How do you use subtle cues or silence to deepen intimacy or influence someone's feelings without them realizing it?
Oh, that's a delicate dance, but it's surprisingly powerful. When you're really close to someone, it's about creating those quiet moments, those pauses where nothing is said but everything is felt. Sometimes I'll ask a question or make a point and then just let the silence hang there. People tend to fill those gaps with honesty or emotions that they might not openly share otherwise. It's like giving them space to think and feel without pressure. Over time, these small clues, like lingering eye contact, gentle touches, or simply being present without rushing to fill the silence, can make someone feel truly understood and connected on a deeper level. they start to associate that calm, unspoken understanding with trust and affection, which naturally pulls them closer. It's not about manipulation for its own sake, really. It's about building a genuine sense of intimacy through subtlety and patience.
That's a really good point. So, when it comes to influencing people, how do you set up the first deal or promise to get them super committed before dropping the less cool stuff later?
That's a classic move, kind of like laying out a tempting trail of breadcrumbs. You start by highlighting the best parts, making the offer seem almost irresistible. You paint a picture of what they stand to gain, focusing on their desires and aspirations. Then, once they're hooked and committed, you gradually introduce the less appealing details. It's like a bait and switch, but in a way that feels natural, so they're already invested and less likely to bolt when the full truth comes out. The key is to make sure the initial promise is compelling enough to get their foot in the door, but not so perfect that the reality feels like a letdown. Instead, it's more like a gentle surprise. They've already bought into the idea, so they're more willing to accept a slightly different version of the truth.
And what about keeping people invested, especially when they start to realize they've been deceived? What psychological triggers do you rely on?
That's where understanding human psychology really comes into play. One big trigger is the principle of consistency. Once someone's committed, they tend to stick with it, even if they start to doubt. You can also tap into cognitive dissonance by making them believe they're part of something special, or that they've already invested too much to turn back. Guilt or a sense of obligation can also be very powerful, making them feel they owe it to themselves or others to see it through. Sometimes, I reinforce the idea that giving up now would mean wasting all their previous effort. It's a subtle art of making the cost of walking away seem higher than sticking around, even if they're aware of the deception.
That's a clever approach. Now, taking it further, how does bait and switch extend beyond sales into personal and professional relationships? How do you adapt your tactics accordingly?
That's where things get really interesting. Bait and switch isn't just about sales. It's about managing expectations in any relationship, whether personal or professional. In friendships or romantic relationships, it might be promising support or honesty, only to subtly shift the dynamic later on. It's about controlling perceptions, initially creating hope or trust, then gradually steering the relationship in a different direction that benefits you. The key is to adapt your tactics to the situation. What works in a business deal might not be suitable in a close relationship. Instead of outright deception, it's more about gentle misdirection, planting ideas, or setting expectations you can then guide. When used carefully, it can deepen influence without outright lying. Of course, in personal life, you need to be especially cautious. Once trust is broken, it's much harder to rebuild.
And speaking of personal relationships, romantic or friendships, have you ever used these kinds of tactics to make someone feel more confident or more engaged?
Yeah, totally. I think we all do it to some extent without even realizing. In my friendships or romantic relationships, I've used little tactics like giving genuine compliments or asking for their opinion on things I already know they're good at. It makes them feel valued and confident, and that naturally makes them more engaged and willing to open up. Sometimes I'll ask for help or advice on small things so they feel like their input really matters. It's a way of building trust and making the other person feel seen and appreciated. It's not about playing games, it's about creating a space where they feel good about themselves when they're around you. And honestly, I think that kind of subtle influence helps both people feel more comfortable and connected over time.
That's really insightful. Thanks so much, John, for sharing your thoughts and experiences. It's been a fascinating conversation. I appreciate your time and honesty.
No problem at all. Glad I could share. Looking forward to next time.
Likewise. And to my viewers, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the art of influence, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Your support means a lot and helps us explore these fascinating topics further. Thanks for watching to this point and see you next time. Take care.